In your speech at the Munich Security Conference earlier this year, you've highlighted the divergent pathways to decarbonization between the global north and the global south. Could you elaborate on the challenges and opportunities in motivating countries in the global south to balance their developmental aspirations with decarbonization? What should be better addressed here?
Well, I mentioned we need to differentiate because there are countries that are creating many more emissions than others. Take, for example, Africa. Africa is disproportionately affected by climate change and carbon emissions, but itself is generating only 3% of global emissions. So there are differences where one is stated. Clearly, when you are a more middle-income country in Latin America or here in China, there is a different picture than, for example, in Africa. And that differentiation you have to take into account. Similar, you need to look at the United States or Europe, where there again are differences. And those differences we need to pact. What is important is that this requires also a different set of policy responses. But I think we should all be very much aware that only jointly we can make progress. And that means we need to make investments. And I highlighted at that time also the challenges of the investment requirements. Today, we are collectively maybe investing in the order of $1.3 trillion in climate resilient investments. That's only maybe 1.2% of global GDP. However, actually we would need maybe 5 times as much. And that is where we then need to look, how can we mobilize the private sector? How can we mobilize also governments to do more? And how can we actually make sure that those countries, particularly the poorest countries, get the necessary support? Their investment needs are the highest, sometimes 8% of their GDP, but they don't have the resources. So that is a call for helping, supporting them in good investments that can actually deal with these big challenges. And a good example, I just came back and there's wonderful weather out here in Beijing. What it shows is that within a couple of years, Beijing, for example, has been able to clean up enormously polluted air. I worked here 10 years ago to see what you can do if you set your mind on it, if you make the necessary investment, and also look at the energy transition by, for example, having a coal phase out here around Beijing, and it can make an enormous effect and have an impact on the population for the good of them. And maybe that are, again, things you can learn of and see how we can do with the necessary investment, really make the transformational changes that are required.